Hey there, it's Boots Owen here. It's rather windy, so you'll have to bear with me, and I might do a voiceover or not, depending on how bad the wind is. This is my Oxford Allen scythe. It's a relatively new one, but not the one with the big box on it. It's got 2-stroke Villiers, and I've got some grass to cut, and as you can see, this is about knee high, and over there it's getting on for, well, it's well above knee high anyways, and it might be quite wet. But the Allen scythe is the best man for the job, really. The only issue is that I haven't started it in 2 years or cut the grass in 2 years, for obvious reasons if you know when this video was published. The blade is a 3-foot blade and it's really good. It's been sharpened up and it's in good nick, but when you're cutting old grass, what happens is it comes off as like a thatch, a big mat of grass, and it rises up, it gets caught up here on this, and it kind of then begins to work like a bulldozer, and it keeps cutting and it keeps working. But the issue is that you kind of get caught up in yourself then, and you get stuck and you have to back it out, and it becomes a bit of a hassle. Or you go along and you take half a cut each time, and if you take a half a cut, then the other half gets stuck in the last bit of grass. So then what you have to do is you have to come back after every cut and rake it all away, which is quite labour intensive. So I don't really want to do that. So since I got this, I've bought another one. The main reason I bought the other one is because it came with an offset blade, both sides offset, but to set it up takes a bit of configuring, and I think I want to waste a bit of time doing that now. So first thing I'm going to do is try and start it, put some clean fuel in it. It's not that it's got dirty fuel in it, although it's 2-year-old fuel. There's something in there. Let's just turn it on and let whatever's in there go through. There's a tickler over here on the carby. It could just be reduced to 2-stroke oil, although I'm not the kind of person to leave petrol in it, but if there was petrol in it, it'll have been there 2 years. So I've no idea what's in there. The choke's on. I don't see it tickling anything through. This is obviously not the original petrol tank, but it is nice and clean in there. The tank that's on it is from a Villiers, and it's not original either. It's from some kind of like an Atco lawnmower or something, but it's got a bracket made up, and it used to get varnish in it, and it was an absolute nightmare. So I just stuck this rig on top because I'm going to spend time faffing at it this time, but normally I just want to come and cut grass and have it done. It's gone right down, the fuel's gone right down, so I need to mix up some more 2-stroke at, what would you imagine it should be, 20-1, something like that? I have no idea. And just crack on with a bit of mowing. You can't even see what's on the plate there. It's a very harsh environment, this, right beside the sea. If you look up that way, just in the distance there, that's the Atlantic. So it's not far away, and there's a lot of kind of like fine dust that lands on everything, which is just, it's not fine dust, it's salt. So the air comes up in winter with salt, even in the summer with salt laden in the atmosphere. So I'll put some fresh juice in it and try and start it up. So this petrol, as it happens, is about 2 years old, but I'm loath to throw out something, so I'm going to try it first. It wasn't mixed petrol, but it was petrol that is 2 years old in a plastic tank. So it's flowing in now. I've mixed it up at about 20-1. I don't think it's 16-1. It'll be okay, put it that way. I might have mixed it up a bit rich on the oil, but it'll be okay. So in here is a tickler on the top of the carb, and we should see fuel. Yeah, it's flowing down, that's going good. There's bubbles coming through the line. There it is, just juices out of the top there underneath my thumb. It gets all wet. So then, this is the bit we all like. Let's see if it starts up. Got a piece of string with a knot in the end of it. We've just tickled it, choke's on. Way. So you can see how it cuts. This was cut with a lawnmower. My neighbour cuts this bit quite often, but this bit up here, this is what's underneath. So you've got moss and dark grass, and then coming up you've got this layer of thatch, and this is quite light grass. It doesn't grow very heavy here, whereas you can see further down and over this side it does grow quite thick. But because of the way it's lying, you get this kind of a mat, so the mower will get right in underneath that mat and slice along, but it won't pull it out. So I want to set up the side-on blade with a swath board and try and get that done. So here's the blade, and down here this is the thing that engages with the driving bar, and this moves the blade along, and it really is free to float quite a bit, but the pressure of the grass keeps it sitting in this back groove here. So to get this out, I have to take off these 4 little pads that guide it. So these are 5/16 nuts. They're on good and tight. Oh dear, that's it. And so these have various adjustment mechanisms, but I've just shoved a copper washer under the back of that because this one, the adjustment was dead on it. And since I got this one, I've bought some new pads for it. So they're new to me, but they're even rustier than the ones that are on it, but that's fine. And I've got some grub screws that are freed up. I spent a bit of time refurbishing these because the screws that were in them were seized, like these ones. But what I might do now is take these ones back and swap them over. So I'll get the rest of those nuts off. Again, I had a washer under that one. And the blade should just lift straight out, yeah. So you can see that this one's driven from the center here, so I've got to swap it for another blade that I have sharpened up. Hopefully it's in good condition. And this one's driven from the right hand edge, so it gives you a left hand offset cut. So before I do that, I'm going to clean out this groove, not for any particular reason other than just to tidy it up a bit, but it's going to be dirty again as soon as I do anything, as soon as I start driving it. I'll put in a load of oil. Just use old engine oil, seems to do the trick. This one's a bit gross. It's got some dead snails and things in there. I haven't used this in quite a while. This is what I cover everything with whenever I leave this place. I only come here and cut the grass once or twice a year. And recently it's been over a year. So then, offer that up. This blade has a lot more meat on the blades. The other one was cleaned back a good bit, sharpened up a bit over time. But even with it in this kind of rusty condition, it still cuts just fine, which is excellent. They're a really robust kind of machine. So I'll set these pads back on. In fact, I think I'll use the adjustable ones and get her back together. They're all snotted up with stuff. And all they do is stop the thing hopping out. They don't really do anything more than that. They put on enough pressure to keep the blade in touch with the anvils, so it acts like a double acting scissors. It works like a double acting scissors. Tighten that up. I think that'll probably do nicely. I've had these pop off before on me, and it's no good because you have to find the things in the grass you've just cut, and that's no good. So the adjustment on this one was gone, so I'll try this one here. Oh, no, that's interesting. So with this thing here, I can't put that, so I have to take this screw out and put another one of these feet in. How do I get that out? Oh, that's interesting. Now I'm in a pickle. Does that hammer out? Let's try it. It might have a square shank on it. Yep, it's well seated in there. It's like a plough bolt or something. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it's got a button head on it, or a cheese head, but it's got a square, like a coach screw, or a, yeah, square shank on it. So that one's got to go here. Know that. Do now. Need to drive that in a bit. Guess that's learning. Right. I lost my nut. So this pivots, if I show you on this one, it pivots on these two pads here, so it can rock up and down, and the little grub screw helps it forwards or backwards to adjust the angle of the pivot, and then the bolt locks it in place. But this one has to be quite a ways up, and I don't know if that grub screw is long enough on this one, so let's screw it in and see. That might do it. Let's get that cinched down. Should probably have a spring washer or something in here, and I don't, but no. That's not free to move, so I need to loosen this off a bit. That'll probably do it, and I can adjust this later if it's not cutting correctly. If it wasn't cutting correctly on a couple of blades, you might tighten it up or something like that. It does take quite a bit of tightening on these things. Okay, 2 more to go. I'll finish off. Put the ones that came back in. Oh, this is quite an interesting thing. This is an original swath board. It hooks on, I'll show you in a second, it hooks onto the pointy bit down there on the edge and then bolts on. But it's got the original maker's name on it there, or maker's decal, Allen & Sons Oxford Limited, makers from Cowley, with the red bull. That's kind of neat. It's just a piece of flat steel with the bit curved up, and then this bit presumably welded on there, but I can't see how it's welded, or brazed on perhaps. And it has an extension piece as well, but I'm just going to try it with the short piece first. That's pretty good. There we go.
Pretty good.
You wouldn't want to get caught in this, would you?
No. You wouldn't get caught.
You'd lose your toes pretty quick.
Yeah.
There we go. Let's see if it starts and see what it does. So today is the next day since I started it last time. I've put the blade back on this morning with the little swath board, first little bit of it, and we'll get it going and see if it starts first pull today like it did yesterday. Is it primed? That this antenna that sticks up here that's meant to guide the grass a bit more is too far forward and it's pointing the wrong way, so I need to adjust that. Oh, it's really tight. Given that there's almost no wear to any parts of this swath board, I don't think it was ever fitted. Or if it was, it wasn't used for very long, so maybe we'll find out why. So you solve one problem only to begin another. I don't know if that swath board's any good or not. There's so much grass, it's so thick and so woolly, as you can see in what I just pulled out. Let's go down and see how far I got and see what the cut was like before I lifted it up. It's cutting just fine. Well, yeah, it's not doing a bad job. The wheels got caught. And that didn't help. So here's where I started. I went up as far as there. You can see initially it comes in and it gives a really good cut, you know, for what it is. Rough old grass. Here, the grass is lying down because an animal has gone in that way and it's not been able to get its fingers underneath it. And I think what that did then was hinder the blades on the left, but I don't know. And I've raked all this across. It's not flat land, it's got a big ridge on the edge near the road. So what I might try and do is come back again. With that one-sided blade you can only come at it from one angle, so I might try and take half a cut or something further down along. I might try and take half a cut further down along and going in that way and see if that does it. And if you could get one cut up the middle, then you could come back and around and work out from there as well. The issue is always just getting the first cut started. Been mowing on and off for a few days now with that sidebar on the Allen scythe, and it does an okay job. You can see all the grass up along here, quite a heap of it, and you can see then this is a bit that I cut last night before I got fed up and went in, but it cuts in right underneath and leaves the grass on top, and so you can fold it back and then pick it away. It's easier to do with two hands on the fork, but it gets a cut right in underneath and leaves you with this brown, well, it's just right down to the roots almost. And the ideal would be that the grass would be a bit shorter and wouldn't have this kind of thatch of mossy old grass in there. But if I come in here, you can see that's as far back as it's cut. It gets right in, but occasionally, like here, it misses. One of the blades gets tangled up with grass and it can't cut, and then you have to stop and come out of it, reverse. And the ideal would be that you wouldn't have this net of last year's grass at the bottom, and you'd come along with that swath board and it would pull the grass over so you could see where your next cut is. Now that grass there must be 18 or 20 inches long, maybe 24 inches long. If it was about 12 inches or 6 inches, you wouldn't have this stuff at the bottom, and you could come back each time and do it again and again. So if I go back up to the end and have a look down at this field, I'll show you. It's not a field, it's a meadow. I'll show you what I was doing. So I started by coming in where that grass is heaped up and took a side cut going that direction. And then I came up the centre here, around where that heap of grass is, and took a centre cut. So I was able to go up and down in the centre and keep going up on that side. But now all this is cut and just needs to be or tidied up a bit. So then I'm just going to have to keep going along with downward cuts along here because of the side that the blade is on. And I'll take off, well, just under 3 foot each time. So it'll take about 2 more cuts to get to that flax over there, that spiky plant. And then just maybe 4 or 5 cuts going in each time. The issue I have is that I have to pause to rake it off because that swath board doesn't do it. So I'll do another shot of cutting along here when I get this bit tidied up. So I'm gonna do some rows from here down to here. So I'm looking at it from the other side now. So you saw my issue happening there a few times. Whatever is wrong with that bit of grass, it keeps getting caught on the blade. And it won't, I think this is what's happening. The spiky bit of the blade is gathering up a bit of thatch, quite soaking wet thatch. And that's stopping it mowing. It's tangling it up. So try and get it again, or come at it again. I suspect if I sharpened the points with an angle grinder it might not happen here, but the feeling with this kind of moss, it's just the way it is. Here's what I'm talking about. You saw how the black grass gets stuck around that thing, but there's one of the blades getting caught up with a load of thatch on it again. I'll keep them clean, rake off that little bit and try again, get a clear run. same thing happened again, right up on the left there. It got caught, and then it got caught again towards the end. But that seems to be the routine. It's quicker than cutting it by hand. So I'm just finishing up raking a bit of grass, and I've noticed this little fella here, and I think his eyes are wide open and look bright, but the back end of him met a nasty match. It just reminds you that, you know, you think you're cutting grass and you're doing one good job, but I've seen when I've been raking loads of these little frogs, probably about 10 of them today and yesterday, and well, they're not much of a match. Not that my ankles would be any match for that Allen scythe, but these guys don't stand a chance. And you know, I'm doing it like this, and they have some small chance perhaps to get away, but not really. And it reminded me of doing this. I did this meadow years ago with a hand scythe, and I was very slow, and I remember just I went one time, and then this front end of a frog just kind of crawled away, and I felt awful for him. Now, what do you do? So that's just life. He's down there in the middle of the picture now, and that's just, you know, I can't imagine a guy doing this with a tractor at a large scale is any ever sees any of this stuff. But when you're raking by hand and forking by hand, you see stuff. That's how it is. I know that these little heaps of grass throughout here are full of frogs at the moment, because that's where they've gone for some kind of shelter, given that their habitat's just been completely decimated. But you know, this is one small area in the middle of lots of other bits of land that are completely wild, so it's a trade-off. I don't feel good about it, but equally I'm not sure why I'm mowing the bloody place. so there. So I got it all cut and had it all raked up, and then spoke to the farmer who comes to collect it, and he said put it into rows. So I've put it into rows so his baler can pick it up easier than one big heap. So I moved it around a few times, but that's okay because it's just exercise and a bit of a hobby, and it's pretty neat, and he'll take it away, and so is another year of grass cutting. What a silly enterprise. If you've got any tips for me on using an Allen scythe or cutting that kind of woolly long grass, and you can see it's been lying a week now and the green's coming up through it. If we get in here, some types of grass there have grown, what would that be, 4 inches or more in a few days really. It's quite amazing. And you can see that thatch. I might rake that off or collect it somehow. I've collected it before using the mower because it kind of vacuums it all up. So there it is now, the tractor's been and baled it up. It's they're quite dense actually, it's packed them quite dense. I thought it was going to be loose enough because they're so wet. And I asked him what he'll do with that. I said, what will you do with those, because they're not great grass and they're a mix of weeds and old grass and new grass, and he says they'll just be left out, they won't be wrapped, they'll be left out for cattle, and the cattle can choose to eat them or not, and if they don't, they will rot down in a place where they won't be in the way, and if they eat them all, so much the better, and it's worth his while just to bale them up and pick them up just for that, which is great. And that tractor, if you know what type of tractor it is, 1980, write it down in the comments below. Three bales. That's pretty neat. I'm quite pleased with that. My little playing tractor, little tractor adventure. Thanks for watching. See you later.